I went undercover at a Moms for Liberty conference, and I want to tell you about it.
How are the children? They're not well.
Not well, bitch.
My name's Olivia, and I've been researching Moms for Liberty since early 2021. And at this point, you've probably heard about Moms for Liberty. They're the right-wing group of parents who are strategically harassing public school teachers for talking about things like LGBTQ issues.
The book Genderqueer was in our school libraries. Had Moms for Liberty not brought that book to your attention, it might still be there.
Or racism.
Parents, beware of terms like social justice, diversity, equity, inclusion.
Most recently, they got in trouble for quoting Adolf Hitler.
He alone who owns the youth gains the future. That is a Hitler quote.
You're likely getting mixed messages about what Moms for Liberty actually stands for. Are they a group of concerned parents?
Moms for Liberty is a parent activist group.
Are they a hate group?
They recently received an extremist group designation from the Southern Poverty Law Center.
I wanted to find out for myself, so I went undercover with my colleague Madeline Peltz to see what they were saying behind closed doors at their summit in Philly. But before we talk about the summit, we've got to talk about the Moms for Liberty origin story. So the story Moms for Liberty tells is of two former disenfranchised Florida school board members, Tiffany Justice, and yes, that is her real name, and Tina Descovich, who band together in 2021 to stand up for parental rights and fight those that stand in the way of liberty. Just two moms facing off against the ambiguous evils of public education.
Never bet against a mom. I mean, nobody's going to defend anything like a mom is going to defend their child.
Here's what they conveniently leave out. Tina actually lost her school board election after opposing teacher raises and mask mandates. Tiffany didn't run for re-election at all, which isn't surprising given the fact that she's a real-life school board villain who made frequent inappropriate outbursts at school board meetings, was almost banned from her child's elementary school because her conduct was so disruptive and disrespectful. She intimidated her district's African-American Achievement Committee, earning criticism from the NAACP, and she opposed her district's busing efforts that were attempting to comply with the 1967 desegregation order, and her rationale was busing more students would be costly and create discomfort among some parents. They are not disenfranchised moms. They are failed school board members who either lost or were going to lose their election. But there's a twist, because Moms for Liberty actually has a third co-founder, Bridget Ziegler. And we say Bridget is a co-founder because she's listed as a director on the group's incorporation documents. Tina also named Bridget as a co-founder in her first Facebook post promoting Moms for Liberty. So why wipe Bridget from the story? Because this is Christian Ziegler, Bridget's husband, who served on Donald Trump's campaign in 2016 and later served as chairman of Florida's Republican Party.
Who is excited to hear from President Trump today?
Moms for Liberty wants you to believe that it's this grassroots group of concerned parents, but it's actually a GOP astroturf group designed to scare women into voting Republican and gutting public education. But don't take it from me, take it from Christian Ziegler himself, who said, "I've been trying for a dozen years to get 20 and 30-year-old females involved with the Republican Party, and it was a heavy lift to get that demographic, but now Moms for Liberty has done it for me." The Washington Post reported that Ziegler expected Moms for Liberty members to be foot soldiers for Governor Ron DeSantis' re-election campaign. And you can see how Moms for Liberty really relied on this GOP propaganda machine to start getting attention in the first place. Right-wing media quickly embraced the group and basically recruited for Tiffany and Tina.
You are out there on the front lines and you are fighting this fight.
They started appearing on Steve Bannon's War Room over and over again.
Guys, you're rock stars. Honored to have you here in the War Room. Honored to have you on here. Look forward to having you back.
The group was also promoted by Breitbart, Glenn Beck.
Hey Glenn, it's Tina.
Oh, Tina, hi.
Rush Limbaugh.
Tina, welcome to the Rush Limbaugh program.
Megyn Kelly even did a fundraiser for them early on. And before long, they were making regular appearances on Fox News.
Tiffany Justice is here, co-founder of Moms for Liberty.
Tiffany, thank you for coming on.
Tiffany, it's great to have you on.
In just a few months, Moms for Liberty went from a few chapters in Florida to a major player in public education. Its members started showing up to school board meetings, harassing and threatening school board and school officials, accusing them of trying to indoctrinate children. And mainstream outlets started to take notice.
They're called Moms for Liberty.
Moms for Liberty.
A group called Moms for Liberty. More on who they are.
Now that it's got media's attention, what does Moms for Liberty actually believe? The conference I crashed began with Tiffany Justice. I still cannot believe that that is her real name.
So you may have heard some nasty things said about Moms for Liberty recently on social media. Horrifically ugly allegations. And the media that elevated them had every reason to know that they were untrue.
Her speech was a response to the Southern Poverty Law Center that had recently designated the group as an extremist group that, among other things, repeated the gays are groomers myth. But that designation was not enough to stop nearly every GOP presidential candidate from showing up and kissing the ring.
When they mentioned that this was a terrorist organization, I said, well, then count me as a Mom for Liberty.
My favorite hate group in history.
Moms for Liberty is no hate group. You are joyful warriors. You are fierce, fierce patriots.
The candidates gave boilerplate speeches and sat down with the Moms for Liberty co-founders for long interviews. But once the campaign stops were done, that's when the revealing shit happened. First up was Jamie Mitchell, founder of Gays Against Groomers, a group that compares LGBT people to pedophiles.
I wanted to share a video that our Gays Against Groomers team put together for Pride Month, which thankfully is now over.
Mitchell is about as extreme as it gets. She is a hardcore conspiracy theorist. She peddles QAnon nonsense, vocal spokesperson for Stop the Steal, and she spends her free time claiming that random celebrities are pedophiles. Seriously, Meryl Streep. Last December, Moms for Liberty and Gays Against Groomers worked together to put on a rally to protect children. And Moms for Liberty has repeatedly used the grooming talking point to try to fire up their supporters.
We will not make peace with an ideology that seeks to sexualize, indoctrinate, and amputate the healthy body parts of children.
Which is ironic because, Anyway, we were then graced by Dennis Prager.
God bless you. Thank you so much.
A conservative pundit who is the founder of PragerU. He started his speech with a truly haunting joke about his sex life.
A young woman looks at me and she goes, get, using the F word, get effed. And I looked at her and I said, I do.
I threw up.
Prager's speech was otherwise pretty standard. He went on his anti-trans tirade.
If he says he's a woman and shows his penis to girls, they are arrested if they object.
It's a total fabrication.
He complained about the left being ungrateful.
The great trait of the left is they're all ingrates.
Why are we yelling?
But then he got a little biblical, arguing that this fight over trans equality is actually part of a larger religious civil war.
I said we were in a civil war 20 years ago. We are. The roots are the Bible versus the left. God made order out of chaos. The left is making chaos out of order.
Which brings us to James Lindsay.
Good morning, war moms.
Lindsay is a celebrity on the far right. He plays the part of an expert on wokeness.
Like queer, feminist, something or another. Like seriously, it's all on their about page on the Black Lives Matter website.
Also peddles the myth that gay people are groomers. Lindsay also likes to argue that Marxist concepts like critical race theory are paving the way for a white genocide. And you might ask yourself, what credentials does this guy have? A PhD in math.
Pride looks an awful lot like shame.
Like any rational person, he spent his speech
talking about Mao Zedong. What is happening in America and throughout the West right now is the Western Cultural Revolution. And he unleashed the People's Liberation Army on the Red Guard, rounded them up, killed a bunch of them, sent them off to the countryside to die in starvation and misery. And that's where our woke countrymen are going to if they succeed.
I want to know who let you on stage.
And if you're feeling soul crushed by this, I need you to imagine how I felt. I was there for days. And they made it extra unbearable by making sure that there were no vegetarian options for any of like the main courses. I survived on bread and spite.
Ingrates.
The rest of the speeches were even more deranged. There was Chrisanne Hall, a far-right commentator with ties to anti-government groups like the Oath Keeper militia.
Satan hates women because women bring forth the image of God.
Period.
Paul is another wild character. She's a Stop the Steal January 6th conspiracy theorist who compared January 6th police to Nazi soldiers. Like Moms for Liberty, she also quoted Hitler in a recent social media post.
It's weird that it happened twice, right?
Prior to speaking at Moms for Liberty, Paul gave an anti-government presentation to the white nationalist and pro-Confederate group, the League of the South. So, we just have a lineup of winners here. And then there's this 4-person panel featuring this guy, Ryan Walters, who is Oklahoma's state superintendent of public instruction.
These are folks that want to destroy our society. They want to destroy your family, and they want to destroy America as we know it.
Period.
Walters has been a vocal ally for Moms for Liberty, and he really doubled down on that at the conference.
God bless you, Moms for Liberty. You know who else was called a terrorist group? Those founding fathers.
But that's an endorsement Moms for Liberty probably wishes it never got.
A TikTok video accusing a Tulsa area librarian of spreading woke ideology is what seemed to set off a string of bomb threats. Ryan Walters faced criticism for retweeting that video.
And he's the subject of multiple lawsuits from former employees, including one who is suing him for defamation after he falsely claimed they were showing pornography in class.
He's been named in 7 lawsuits so far this year.
That being said, all of the clips I've shown you so far are from sessions Moms for Liberty published after the conference. But I noticed there are a couple of speeches they didn't publish. These speeches took place after a very boozy happy hour where the speakers at the conference had loosened up a bit. At one, a Texas Moms for Liberty chairman began her speech by saying this.
Are there any joyful terrorists in this audience?
It's a hell of a comment for an organization that has repeatedly harassed and threatened school boards across the country. But the other speech they didn't publish was even more damning. Near the end of the conference, co-founder Tiffany Justice came on stage to talk about the criticism the organization faced after a chapter quoted Adolf Hitler in a newsletter. But this time she struck a very different tone.
One of our moms in a newsletter quotes Hitler. Woo! I stand with that mom.
So what should we make of this batshit conference? Besides all of the, groomer and Hitler stuff, it became very clear that Moms for Liberty cares a lot about how they're covered by the media.
We got to remember who's watching. Always remember who's watching.
During his talk, James Lindsay encouraged members to act friendly and nice in front of reporters.
It's so important that we keep this joyful warrior attitude. It takes exactly one of you deciding to do something stupid they catch on camera, and then they have their proof. Hi, New York Times, fake news. We got your number.
I call this the gaslight gatekeep girl boss strategy. Behind closed doors, Moms for Liberty will compare queer people to pedophiles and groomers, will call for a civil war, but in front of reporters, they'll lie and act nice.
Never bet against a mom. I mean, nobody's going to defend anything like a mom is going to defend their child.
And unfortunately for all of us, it's working. In April, CBS hosted a segment on Moms for Liberty's book banning, where they described the organization as a group of concerned parents.
Their aim? To play hardball with a smile.
The segment also gave Tiffany and Tina a large platform to just straight up lie about what kind of books they're trying to ban.
Books that don't have pornography in them. Let's start there. Let's just put the bar really, really low.
That kind of coverage is exactly what Moms for Liberty is looking for. After their last summit, Moms for Liberty bragged about earning $10 million in free advertising thanks to the media's coverage of their summit. And the group even touts positive coverage from mainstream media on their webpage. All this positive media coverage comes at a cost. Moms for Liberty chapters have strategically harassed and threatened schools across the country. They have partnered with individuals and organizations who have prompted bomb threats at hospitals and in schools, and now certain chapters are even teaching their members how to use guns. Moms for Liberty is so deeply embedded in GOP politics and will likely stay that way through the next election cycle, but pretending that they're just a bunch of concerned mama bears isn't journalism. It's falling for an obvious trap, a bear trap, a mama bear trap. I don't really know. At least I didn't quote Hitler.